33-story hotel and condo project.
I'd probably be
Okay,
like
like
that.
stop, tap.
This is a plan by the community for the community.
This one here, show me.
No problem, Ken. Thanks for having me.
It's Kent Mulgat for Kelowna Now. And we're joined by Mike Shepard, Dr. Mike Shepard, an MD and a soccer player. So I think the perfect guy to talk with about this. When we head the ball in soccer, we are not doing ourselves any favors, are we?
No, unfortunately, we're not. No, we basically every time we do hit it, it's going to depend on a number of different forces. Certainly, whether if it's a heavy ball or a wet ball, it's going to have obviously more impact on us than if it's a dry ball. If it's well set up as far as the pressure is concerned, that makes a difference as well. But in the end, it's still an impact, and it's an impact on the head. Yeah.
And is it something as a lifelong soccer player that you've given much thought to? That you're going in there and you're sort of knowingly causing yourself at least some damage when you do that?
Actually, I didn't think a lot about it until I got in my 30s probably, and realized that it hurt every once in a while when I headed the ball.
Do you ever feel fuzzy after?
Actually, with the older, heavier balls, I guess the leather ones that would pick up moisture, certainly if you're in the rain and playing in the rain, really did. Yeah, I really started to feel as though that was having an impact on me, and then after that, I started thinking about how every time I did have it, it made a difference. So it was a matter of then choice of whether that was a smart thing to do or not.
And it is tough because it's even playing soccer at an older age. It's still competitive, and your teammates expect you to make a play. And if you can clear a ball away and succeed defensively, that's expected of you. So
absolutely. Yeah, in the end, most of us are competitive, and that's why we're still playing. And so you don't want to be the person who just stepped aside and said, "It's your ball."
Right.
So there's a little disconnect really between knowing what's healthy and being part of the game and
right.
being competitive in the game.
So just within the last few weeks, there was yet another study that kind of reminded us all of what we probably already knew, that the cumulative effect even of these relatively low impact bangs to the head from a soccer ball do cause notable damage. So I don't know, do you think it's time that the game of soccer takes a look at that?
I really think so. I think they're going to be forced to, because of what other sports are doing, looking at head injuries, and basically where the money is starting to, I think, take a look at how many lawsuits, etc., may come out of all of these things when now the knowledge is there, but we don't seem to be doing anything about it when it comes to soccer. Yeah.
So in terms of doing things about it, there are a few products like this.
Mm-hmm.
This is made for soccer. There's another brand that has more padding in the front than this. This seems to be set up more for those incidental times when a head hits a head on the back. There seems to be more padding there. But can you see a time when more players would wear something like this, maybe even something more protective than this to reduce that?
I think there's a possibility. Looking at when you can get that believed in, and they look at the NHL and what they start doing, then filters down into the younger age groups. Soccer doesn't seem to have an impetus for that at the moment, but again, because it is coming out, maybe starting young people, because it won't work, I'm sure, in the professional leagues, etc., in soccer to start with. But
I was reading something that some early studies indicate that the padding up at the front of this sort of thing really isn't providing much protection. So maybe it either needs to be enhanced, or is it possible that we could see FIFA at some point in the future, as the information mounts up, to simply ban heading?
I think that's truly the only way you're going to get around the fact that it is dangerous or cumulative over a length of time, as you said. I don't think anything can be made that's going to be effective enough. With hockey, for instance, the helmet's much better than this, and yet wearing a mouth guard is more important, basically, where your jaw is now, is now controlled, so you're not snapping back on it the same way. It's
So
probably
really,
more
almost
important
the
than
mount guard protects the head as much as the helmet.
basically, yes, yeah, yeah. It's been shown that a single mouth guard, like most of them wear, is helpful, but not nearly as good as the double. But the double, they're not comfortable with, and it's harder to breathe with. Yeah.
So if FIFA said, gee, we just can't figure this question out, and so they call you, and they say, do we do it? Do we maybe start banning heading among juvenile players and let them just grow into an era when heading is no longer legal because of the medical ramifications? Would you favor
I think
that?
so. I would. Yeah, I would. And just because, again, there's nothing that's going to be as good as just plain not hitting. Your helmets, etc., just not going to do the same job.
Yeah. Such a big part of the game, though.
Absolutely. I don't know if you watched the recent Champions League final, and beautiful goal set up. Happened to be a wonderful scissor kick, but you're getting up high in the air, and there's an impact if you're heading that ball.
Yeah.
Most of the games that you watch, heading is a very big part of scoring, and scoring's how you win the game. So it's going to be hard to convince people. Yeah.
But something that you would advocate for starting now. Could take many years to convince people, but it should start now.
I think so. Yeah, I really do think so. My own daughter started advocating for it when she was still in high school, basically, because she just didn't like the feel of the ball hitting her head, and so she spends all her time positioning herself well so that she can bring it down with the chest or with the thigh and not hit.
Right. Yeah. It's amazing, you get tradition in a sport that holds so much sway, but on this particular point, if they were to sit down and really discuss it, on one side you've got some exciting plays. On the other side, you've got ultimately some life-changing injuries that can take place with heading, don't we?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think if you ban the heading, we're more than creative enough to get those goals, etc., without having to have the head used.
You'd still have a great game without the heading.
Absolutely. It'd be more technical, basically, than what it is now.
Right.
Yeah.
Fewer collisions, I think, as well, because when you're heading the ball, you're looking up and you're coming together, and you do see people colliding in all sorts of ways while they're...
Yeah, and I think that's when you see the worst of the injuries, basically, in soccer, is when two people have gone up for the ball and hit heads as well as the ball. That's much more impactful.
Wow, okay. Interesting. Thanks very much for your opinion on that. I appreciate you
You're very
coming in.
welcome.
And thank you for watching Kelowna Now.